coming today. My question is really directed to Tom mostly, and that is, what can we do to help ensure the passage of the independent school bill in this legislative session?
Great question. This is my priority this session, and as we said before, this session is going to be very truncated just because of the feds moving back the election dates from July to May. I expect we'll be out of there by what I've heard is the 20th of March, which is extremely early. This is going to be an uphill climb. Like I said, it's a difficult thing. We've got an advocacy group that's coming down, starting to work on this. Right now, we're trying to schedule hearings. We're doing a session tomorrow morning. I'll have more about that. The big thing is just support it, get the word out, and this is huge. I mean, this is for the future of our community, not just from an education and kids standpoint. Even if you don't have kids in the schools, the economic development impact is incredible. Your property values, the ability for the city to be able to attract businesses here, to keep employment up. The city's been very successful attracting businesses over the past couple of years. Those were in the pipeline prior to the school board being put on probation and removed. So what I would say is stay involved, get other parents involved, but not just if you have kids in the schools. I think this is a community-wide effort. There are two phases in this. One is the constitutional amendment phase, which we talk about just allowing the capital school system, the number of school systems in Georgia. The second phase is actually, which would be in probably 2016, which would be the enabling legislation, which actually allows you to form that school system, and you make a decision on how that's going to be set up.
The disappointing thing in DeKalb is we just had this Druid Hills cluster, which I was a little bit involved with. Dan was involved as well. He's involved with charter systems in the state. And unfortunately, the school board voted it down 5-4. And I was going to try to see if we could do an appeal process in order to get around that. But if you remember, when we tried to do that just in charter schools in general, the courts threw it out. You lawyers know. Anyway. And so, unfortunately, I believe any appeal process will be deemed unconstitutional. That's what I've been told. So, if the CAB doesn't want to do something like the charter cluster, where you get more control of your schools, the dollars, the hiring and firing staff, if they're not willing to do that, this is the only option left.
And just remember, I don't think anyone specifically mentioned this, a constitutional amendment requires 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. This is a tough proposition because, and I fully support the effort, but this is a tough proposition because of those numbers that you need to hit. So citizen involvement makes all the difference. I mean, you need to get down there and start talking with key legislators who have some influence over, and we'll get an idea who have some influence over the issue, and then we'll get an idea pretty quickly who, we would think might support it, but actually is not supporting it, and maybe you could talk with them directly as well.
And the folks in the advocacy group, there's several of them here, Allegro, Hayward, Cheryl, right up front here. You might want to get with them afterwards if you want to volunteer or put the effort into this.
To dovetail on your question about education, will you representatives support providing the full funding for the schools? In the past, we've cut, but we need full funding from the formula for the schools to receive.
I will tell you that under Governor Deal, we put more dollars in every year in education into the school budgets. We are still overall budget will probably be at about the 2007 level, and we put in about 56% of our money goes into education. We've got right now 16%, the second biggest item is Medicaid, growing. Even if we don't expand Medicaid, we've got to put $150 million additional in this year. Obviously, the criminal justice system we talked about a little bit about. We continue to put more money into education, and we'd like to put more money in. The governor's talked about even giving the teachers and the state employees some raises, because they haven't had in a number of years this year. But it's only 100 pennies in a dollar. And quite frankly, if it was just a money issue in schools, the city of Atlanta would be the Harvard of the South. And unfortunately, I think I'm really concerned about how we use a lot of the money in our school systems, and a lot of the waste, and a lot of the inefficiencies. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't like to put much more money in a lot of things, but I think we're doing about the best we can under the budgetary constraints we operate. And that's, I don't want to go any further than that really at this point.
Any others on the panel?
Well, thank you.
I'm very grateful we have our cityhood for Dunwoody, and I'm sure that's likewise for Sandy Springs and Brookhaven. The city of Lakeside is coming online, and it's also got this competition of Briarcliff and also Tucker. Can you describe what's happening with that currently?
Commissioner Boyer and I, for the last 2 months, have tried to get primarily the Tucker and Lakeside people together. I think those are the two most viable options. We have not been very successful. One of the options was to actually have them combined into one city of about 100,000 people. One of the sides rejected that. One side probably would have done it. They weren't overly happy. As I told somebody, if you got both sides unhappy, you probably done something right. And unfortunately, right now, it looks, I would say to you, the plan would probably be to go ahead and try to do something with the city of Lakeside. There could also be a component to that with a non-binding referendum in certain areas to see where those people would like to be. Okay? And so, you know, the problem down with the General Assembly is they get a little tired of DeKalb and Fulton County. We passed 11 bills last year for Fulton County. And I think Speaker Ralston in the House, I'm not speaking out of turn, and Lieutenant Governor Kay will get a little tired of Fulton and DeKalb dominating. Because, you know, we've got another issue we want to pass. We want to make the CEO race nonpartisan. That's a bill of mine. So we can only go to the well so many times here for DeKalb County. So that's really where it is at this point, Howard.
I want to follow up with, as far as cities, speaking from across the line, watching what's going on in DeKalb, I don't know why Lakeside and Tucker cannot be together.
We tried.
As a city, well, they got a problem, and until they play together, they should
Raise your hand, Bob.
be asking for it. But the point is, cities are great governments. I believe in it. I helped form the first, which was Sandy Springs, in over 70 years, and it's been a great city. And I think, you know, when we talk about city governments, everything else on top of that are the layers of government. It's the cities that really come forward and deliver the services that you and the community are looking for, as far as police protection, fire, garbage pickup, roads, etc. They do the best job as a type of government, so I'm very supportive of it.
Having been engaged a little bit with what Fran was talking about, trying to combine a couple of these proposals, I can say at this point, probably Lakeside is the only serious proposal that's out there that's ready to move forward. But Fran is correct. I mean, there is, I think, some leadership reluctance that we're going to have to, you know, see where we stand once we get into the legislative session, and it's too early to tell how all of that is going to shake out. I will say that you know, our referendum in Brookhaven, Georgia's newest city, was 55-45. It was the closest of any new city referendum that has happened thus far. But now that we, now that we have a year of experience under our belt, you know, the fact of the matter is police presence in our area is much greater, whereas you could drive through the city and not see a single police cruiser. Now you can't drive through the city without seeing one or two, if not more. You know, they've just launched a fairly aggressive capital project program, and all of this without raising property taxes. I mean, pretty much if your assessed value remain the same in the city of Brookhaven, your property taxes remain static as well. So whereas a referendum was pretty close back in 2012, now when I talk with citizens, I hear a lot of favorability for the city. And I think that that's catching on elsewhere in DeKalb County. How that shakes out in the legislative session, I think at this point is anybody's guess, but I do believe that Lakeside is the only serious proposal that's out there.
I'm going to take another tack on this. You know, I'm generally supportive of cities, but I find it ironic that the sponsors of every other cityhood proposal in DeKalb County, and I think there's 5 or 6 out there total, has opposed every single city since Sandy Springs, and now they all want cities. Basically, those bills were dropped with overlapping borders for Lakeside just to muddy the waters and make the process more difficult. My position is I'm generally supportive, but my priority is the independent school system bill, and as Fran said, you know, you got to pick your fights, and that's much more important to me than any of those.
this side. Do we have another question?
I'm kind of puzzled about this waiting part. I was puzzled about your comment about the fire department. I was told that there was a North DeKalb fire department proposal and that Chamblee was not interested, Doraville was not interested, and Brookhaven said they were not interested for another 5 years. And there are documents that are out there that this proposal was prepared when they were discussing this, okay? If Dunwoody starts their fire department, or when, what will we do? Will they have a vote if they have to have more fire trucks? Because this will surpass this amount of money.
I think the question is if they have to, when Sandy Springs took over fire services, we had to pay $5,000, I believe, per fire station, if we took over fire stations. Then Sandy Springs was left with all the junk equipment from Fulton County. So you're going to have to probably have a capital, so you probably have to have a bond issue in order, I guess, if you're going to probably have to have a bond issue if you're going to try to add equipment down the road.
You don't have to.
I'm sorry?
You don't have to.
You don't have to, okay.
Those
Okay. They did it within their own system. So I don't have the answer. The bottom line is before they do anything like this, I would hope that the city council would do a cost benefit analysis and a feasibility study before they enter anything like this. Have they learned anything in the last few years? I hope so. So we'll see what happens. All this does is give people an option they already have. And what this particular legislation does, it reduces the maximum millage rate for that particular service based on the 5-year average. In all likelihood. So, you know, the city council at the end of the day is going to deal with this. Okay? They have the right now. They still have the right to do it. And again, you know, as I said before, you know, they've been empowered to do that. They have been elected, just like they've been elected and I've been elected. So that's where it is.
Go ahead and talk about, follow up what you talk about, Fran, and that is that from the other side of the line, we have a fire department, we have a police department. We also realized back before we had these departments in the city of Sandy Springs, you got a problem at home, a health need, and you want to get emergency ambulance services there, emergency medical. It used to take 11 minutes. We're down now to about 2.5 minutes. Amazing. That's when you need to have those kind of services responding to you. It's not a question of cost, it's a matter of need. Talking about fire, you walk out of this building right here, you don't have to Dunwoody and start traveling south. You look at the economic heartbeat of the whole area, which is the perimeter area, city of perimeter, you might call it. And that is the largest commercial office complex in in the metropolitan Atlanta area. Perimeter center. What we should be looking at is combining services between, say, Sandy Springs and Dunwoody to service this whole area, and we can do it at a much lower cost. We bought, Fran, we bought fire trucks, the top of the line model fire truck. We started the city, because like I say, we didn't have any, and Fulton County did not give us any, but we bought them on a time basis, and did quite well with it. And in fact, 7 years after we started our department, we're replenishing our fire trucks. We're bringing the top of the line again. We're able to do that because we have local control over this issue. And if you have a fire in your home, you're not worried about whether you paid an extra penny or two for the cost of that service. You want that response on as timely a basis as possible to save the property and also to save the lives. And that's what's important.
Let's be honest though, you all can't afford to have full-time employees for your fire department.
No, ma'am, we do.
No, you don't. I know that.
Well, if you know the fact, better than I do, as city attorney, you go ahead and deal with it. But I know, I'm city attorney, I know what's
Your fire department is not in full-time.
I beg your pardon, we are.
Let's go on to the next question. Yes, sir.